On this episode of the podcast, I have with me Abhi Sharma. He is the CEO and co-founder at Relyance AI. We're going to be talking about unreasonable hospitality. And we're going to have Abhi define that for us, what that means and how that developed within the company. How is it actually woven into the company, the culture, the operations? I'm also going to touch on how that impacts new hires. I'm super excited to cover this with you, Abhi. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Before we start, could you tell everyone what Relyance AI does?
Of course. So Reliance AI is sort of the most comprehensive trust and data governance platform, which essentially automates and unifies three main things: global privacy compliance, data security posture management, and AI governance operations. It's sort of a tech-forward, bottoms-up view to solving for three main heavy problems that organizations face globally today.
Absolutely. All right. So this topic, and I'm kind of excited to cover it with you because when we talked about unreasonable hospitality, I could tell you were fired up, and that's a good thing. I could sense the passion. But let's define what that means for everyone, so everyone can be on the same page with us.
Yeah. So the idea of unreasonable hospitality, in simple terms, is delivering experiences that are so exceptional that they kind of define conventional expectations. Many people talk about it as going the extra mile, going above and beyond. But the key element to unreasonable hospitality and how it differentiates itself from going above and beyond is doing it in often unexpected, maybe personalized ways, so that you make every interaction, whether it's with your peers, it's with your customers, it's with your partners, have what I call 3Ms. And those 3Ms are, is the experience mesmerizing, memorable, and mentionable. And you kind of need to have all three of them for it to be qualified as this is an unreasonably hospitable experience. But that's what it means.
I like that. I like the 3Ms. When you're kind of looking at the company and how this concept of unreasonable hospitality developed, when did it start? Was it something you came into the founding of the company? Has it developed as the company's been in existence? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the notion of it was always there from the founding of the company. I didn't quite have the words unreasonable hospitality yet when I started the company. I'll tell you where it came from. But this idea of delivering exceptional experiences was always there. One of the first things I remember when we started early on, and I still say it in every all hands to the team members, which is, hey, we want to build a formidable generational business. And of course, we want to make a lot of money for our customers, for ourselves along the way, because we are a for-profit business. But I will still be personally disappointed if our customers don't think back and say, oh boy, that was a great group, or we had a great experience, or that product is just so beautiful. Because I told everybody that I would consider it to be a failure if we make a lot of money and we provide a lot of value to the world, but people don't think our products are beautiful. Just like design and beauty for the sake of it. So I think that was the germination of the idea of just like pushing the boundaries of having excellent experiences. And then over the course of running Reliance, my wife actually gave me the book, which is called Unreasonable Hospitality. And it's written by this guy called Will Giudara, who was the general manager at a very popular fine dining restaurant called 11 Madison Park. And the term is actually coined by him. So a lot of the principles come from that book. And funny enough, the book has nothing to do about fine dining, but it's all about culture and people building. And it really resonated with me because I was looking for a way of, I'm a verbose guy. So I was like, okay, I need to find a short way to capture this idea for my team members. And, once I read it, I couldn't put it down. I literally did not sleep all night reading that book. And then, of course, since then, I've given it to everybody and read it 3 times over. But that's where sort of my original instinct combined with maybe a more tactical framework of providing exceptional experiences that just kind of define conventional expectations, especially in tech software.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I love that. Obviously, we'll link to the book as well. I guess maybe just give us a few examples of, in your view, obviously you guys are a software company, but give us a few examples of how this concept of unreasonable hospitality comes through with the company.
Yeah, and I'll give you a couple because this is the one thing that I keep telling my team is we have to live this value. So one of the core tenets of this idea is you got to optimize your time on these micro moments of delights and really focus in whatever you're trying to do is how do I expand macro moments of delight? And here's how we do it. So we were part of one specific deal with a customer. I won't name them, and it was a very hot deal in terms of a competitive fight with one of our competitors. And this prospect, who was the final person who had the veto power, everybody was like, Reliance is the best thing, let's go with this. But this person who had the veto war was like, no. They seem all too nice. I want to do this evaluation on my own, and I don't want anybody walking me through anything. I'm going to look at both solutions and make a judgment call on the weekend. So we said that's fine. We don't want to be overbearing. All we did is we asked the person, "What time are you going to review this on Sunday?" And the person said, 10 a.m. in the morning. And so what we did is at 9:58 a.m. there was an email that landed in their inbox, which had a little Loom video and which said, "I know you don't want any help, but here is a 5-minute recording of what we have heard so far in the engagement about the features and the value that you care about. You can either use it or don't use it. That's perfectly fine, but it's here for your liking." The other vendor, our competitor, did not do that. Guess what happened on Monday? We won the deal, and this person was on a 6-hour call negotiating the whole contract with us so that we are on a long-term partnership, multi-year partnership. That little attention to detail, when not asked for, is unreasonable hospitality. I'll give you a second example, and I can keep going, but hopefully in the interest of time, I'll pause with that. Here's how we implement it internally. So we were hiring this person for a very critical role, not senior leadership, mid-level leadership, but that person is very important in terms of where the company was with respect to our growth. Everybody liked this person, and they were going through this temporary health conditions where they needed to be in a very humid environment. And I won't disclose more details, it was just a temporary thing. But they were coming here for an interview here in San Francisco, and this is during the fall time, so they really crank up the heaters, which dries up the air. So what I did is my assistant and I made sure in the conference room, we just the day in the morning bought a humidifier and just kept it in the table and was on throughout the day. And then we had a 3-hour interview on the panel. I didn't say anything about it, right? And then that day we got the offer accepted, and the person was like, "I don't know if this was intentional by design, but I noticed that you remember that I have this temporary head condition and you made sure that there was a humidifier." Now, that thing cost me $20 or $30, I don't even remember, but the act of remembering that this was the situation, and it's so easy to ignore this, right? Like, it's like you're so busy, there's so much going on, and it's not like other people interviewing this person care any less about the person, but that attention to detail such that it defies conventional expectation is unreasonable hospitality. And then I'll pause there, but I can give you a million examples of how we try to incorporate that and weave into the company culture every single day.
I love it, man. That both stories are fantastic. The one about the humidifier, you have a superpower of paying attention to very tiny details. I got to be honest, because I don't know if other people notice that. And I guess that might be my follow-up question, right? So, I know you have this ability. You're obviously able to see these small nuances. You're able to remember them as well, and then action upon them. How do you promote that within the company? Because obviously, not everyone is born naturally gifted to observe those things, but to have it be a part of the fabric of the company, you need people to work towards that.
Yeah. So I think the way we do it is, so I have a framework for this in terms of how to imprint this into our culture. And it's like a 4-part thing. Part 1, have rituals that inspire. Part 2, empower, empower. Part 3, use feedback as the fuel. And then part 4 is storytelling as a glue that just reinforces it. So, and I'll give you one quick example of all of this, but that's kind of my framework. So rituals that inspire. Every time I have an all hands, which we do every 2 weeks, I have a section in my all hands which says momentum corner. And as part of the momentum corner, I'm going to read out 4 stories, and it could be a senior executive or a new intern that has joined that lived the value of unreasonable hospitality. And in order for me to be able to tell that stories, it's a forcing functions that everybody captures those. So we have a Slack channel which says unreasonable hospitality in the wild. And every time anybody does something that lives that value, we have to put that in the Slack channel. Or for our customer success team, it's part of their OKRs. And the ritual is I will talk about it in the all hands. And this intern that got hired, I've never met, knows that actually the CEO knows about it. So that's one thing. Second thing is you just kind of have to empower the people to say, hey, look, here are the general guardrails, but we want you to be creative. You think about a process, you think about an engagement, make the best you can, and then shelf it. Come back to it next day and say, how can I add unreasonable hospitality to this? And can I do something more? And then we have people who might just kind of break the rules a little bit, or maybe find a new creative way, but in exchange, they end up creating a raving fan in a customer or a prospect. That behavior is important. The third thing of feedback is anytime somebody forgets to exercise unreasonable hospitality, and if like their manager or their coach or peer finds that we could do this, we would then provide that real-time feedback. Hey, you could have paid attention to this piece. I'll give you one specific example for that feedback loop. We were talking to one of our customers, and they wanted a little bit of an architecture diagram where in Reliance, we have an ability to set up business entities for many subsidiaries together. And the customer is like, hey, I just want to see a screenshot of when it is all set up. How does it look like? And we have a demo instance. So one of my sales engineers took a screenshot, sent it to the customer. Now, what he could have done was taken an extra 10 seconds. We already know that customer's business and their subsidiaries, and actually just punch in a few keywords and create a graph of their subsidiaries. Now, when you get it, it hits completely differently, because it's not some fictitious business with their 100 subsidiaries. It's this business and their subsidiaries already set up in a dummy instance. I'm just a tree of entering some data, but going that extra 20 seconds has an impact. So we'll do positive and feedback loop. And then finally, storytelling is the way to really get it seeped into or etched into the DNA of every employee. And the way we do it is we do it in all hands, in QBRs, in OKRs, and we'll just like highlight those stories and tell the full story. And the way we've done it is internally we call our teams, Reliance. So we are Lions, L with a Y. And so we will basically celebrate Golden Lion, which is an idea of a person going above and beyond with unreasonable hospitality. And then we have Golden Pride, which is a team, especially a cross-functional team, figuring out how to be unreasonably hospitable to each other. So it's basically, that's the 4-part: rituals, empowerment, feedback loops, and storytelling. That's how we imprint it. And so far, I wouldn't say I wouldn't give myself A+ yet, but I think we're doing pretty damn good.
I love it. That sounds fantastic. I mean, obviously, people can listen and kind of, see how that structure is playing out. Obviously, there's an imprint happening. If you were to go back to the early days where you started implementing this concept, are there things you can look back on, learning experiences of having the company adopt and kind of embody this philosophy? Are there things that you've learned along the way that you could have done differently?
Yeah, I think I would say that one of the things that founders get wrong many times is that when you have clear vision for certain ideas, you're still trying to get more, I don't know if it's opt-in from people or ideas of, feedback you get from other founders or board members. And you're always trying to calibrate too much of like, is this the right thing to do? Or should I water it down? Should I amp it up? And I think that looking back, and all that is very useful, but I think there are certain things that just like completely germinate from you so deeply that that authenticity is important. And I would like encourage everybody, and I took some time to get to that point where you are just unapologetic for those a few key things that just feel like so strongly your authentic culture. And for us, it's unreasonable hospitality. Like I always say, we're in the SaaS business, and people forget the last S of SaaS is service. And if everything gets commoditized and we're living in the fancy AI world where agents do everything, then the only thing that's actually going to matter is the element of service, which is that human touch or that extra experience. So that's one thing. And the second thing I'd say that in kind of my journey and learning along that is you can also have what I would call slightly conflicting cultural values or things that challenge people a little bit or inspire people a little bit. And the example of that, what I have at Reliance, is this idea of we have amp it up with excellence and we have unreasonable hospitality. And I've had times where people have grappled with this idea, which like somebody on customer success or in engineering will say, well, you want to deliver 45 things in these many days. That's just like an insane velocity or time. And then on the other hand, you say, okay, handcrafted, personalized experience. You'll say one size fits one. Like how do those things balance each other? And I think my reaction to that is like, first of all, you have to set the bar so high that both things can be true. And in those instances where they do not end up being true, well, the opposite of unreasonable hospitality is reasonable hospitality. And that's still a fine way of doing business 20% of the time, because you're at least checking the core boxes. And I think that the idea of pushing to the extreme and maybe you fall a couple notches behind is something that I personally preserve, and I think we should all try to do that. So I think it took me a while in terms of learnings to kind of like really double click on that. And, that's just journey for every founders and finding their own culture, if you will.
I was going to ask you, when you bring, and actually just an observation. So the story you told us about the humidifier, I think it's very significant when the founder, in this case, CEO, goes out of his or her way to identify those little things. I mean, that to me, when you talk about top down, it's easy sometimes for people to say something, but then to actually embody and do it themselves. So I think that's fantastic. I can see why your team has embodied it, and it's very interesting to hear. I was thinking about when you do bring on a new hire from the outside, right? Sometimes we all hear about these great terms, unreasonable, hospitality, other type of, fulfillment type quotes you might hear. They might come in and go, I'm not sure. Like maybe it's all just a part of just the speak, but they don't actually walk the walk. How does it resonate with new hires? Like, do they sense it? Obviously, in this case, the humidifier one, obviously through the interview process, they would have understood it. But how long is it until it resonates with the new hire that you guys really do believe in the concept of the unreasonable hospitality?
One of the things is like you have to re-educate us, especially as the company goes and scales, to remember to do this consistently. I think in some parts it's almost a nice hack and easy because, in my opinion, people are so horrible at really trying to curate and craft an experience for new hires, especially if the company is doing well, that they forget that ultimately the success really depends on this collective activity and wisdom of this group you put together. So I feel like us leaning in on being explicit about it always works, and people take a notice. And then there's like this humidifier is my example, but like I'll give you another example that actually happened 3 weeks ago. We were hiring this data engineer out of Canada. He just had a child about 6 months ago. Very interested, but was on the fence of like this versus a high flying another AI startup, which probably has better brand in the market. And we like to always do in-person interviews, especially if it's a critical role and we're not going to hire remote. Like you can work remotely, but we have to meet you once. And so one of my main hiring managers, who's the head of data engineering, was like, well, he can't really travel right now. He has some issues with his 6-month-old. So why don't we just flip it around and I'll go to him? And so this person just flew to him and had a 4 hour session at a cafe next to his house. Like, there is no way this person's joining any other company than Reliance. And of course, we checked all the other boxes on comp and everything. Of course, that has to match. But like, that's the way. So now this person coming in, when HR went like 2 months later to get feedback about their 60-day checkpoint, this person was almost in tears and almost breaking up, talking about like nobody for a company he was interviewing for would ever think of coming to him instead of making him fly, and really understanding his personal situation. Now, this doesn't mean that we slack on bar and quality. I always tell my people like A+ players only, and if you're not good enough, you get fired. We're not going to apologize for that. But like, this plays a huge role where they already know that they're coming into a culture where they really care about. And sometimes it's just a regular interview, but the day they start, I make sure that I send a handwritten note and the Unreasonable Hospitality book actually gets delivered to their doorstep when it matters. When it is possible, and we hire a new person, like we're based out of in San Francisco, and there's two people we hired who live in San Francisco, and they get their welcome package. And we were like, well, there's a bunch of people right here. Instead of sending this to UPS, we can take a 15-minute Uber and actually hand deliver this thing. And so we went and hand delivered, and it's like special for them because like almost you don't expect this happening. So I can give you a million examples, but I'll pause there. But that's the idea of how it starts to resonate. And I tell my HR and talent team is like, make this impression as early as possible, because then they will talk to 5 other people, they will carry our culture forward. And it always kind of waters down as the company grows. Like, if there's a central idea in the CEO's heart and mind, and it's beaming with full glow from there, and as it spreads around, you get a 20%, 20%, 20% dilution effect. And we just have to like do this every single time and repeat it so that we don't dilute the energy. But it's resonating a lot. It's one of the best things we've gotten feedback on after we see these new hires come on board, which is like, nobody has ever done this kind of stuff for us. And we mean it. Like, it's coming from a genuine place instead of just doing unreasonable hospitality for the sake of it.
Absolutely. I mean, I love it. I love all the stories. I love the examples. I'm like, I almost want to join one of your all hands every 2 weeks just to kind of hear the stories of unreasonable hospitality. Abhi, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing great insights, great examples, great stories. If somebody wants to follow up with you on the idea of unreasonable hospitality, maybe they want to implement it themselves or learn more, what's a good way of connecting with you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Abhi Sharma, Reliance. I will certainly pop up, or you can connect with me on Twitter. It's Abhi Sharma _B.
Okay, awesome. We'll make sure to include that in the show notes so people can find you. Again, thanks for being on. Thanks for taking the time. And that's it for the episode. Be back again, different guest, different topic. Until then, 2 things. One, I love this discussion about unreasonable hospitality. And I think Abhi actually walked us through how it actually is working within Reliance and how everyone sees it, feels it, and it is a part of their culture. And as a CEO, he's leading the way. And I think it's an incredible story. So share this with somebody else who might really like to hear something like this and actually take it into their company. I think that'd be great. So please share this with other people. Also, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know how the show's going for you. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.